Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3-Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Saturday, June 21st, 2025. And this is episode 1850, NATO's Procurement Corruption Scandal and Why We Should Renounce Hate Speech Laws. Before I proceed, you can find me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Loki Luck number 3, Loki Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or the Loki Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. You can hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal or cash.app/look number 3. Or you can hit me and follow me at Steemit LL3-Podcast. Oh my. What else I can say? They want World War III to escalate so bad so the global banksters a la Rothschilds can gobble up. I know this very peculiar. A lot of people are questioning. Even Donald Trump. He's just a pawn of the game. There's folks out there giving him bad advice, trying to really push for that, right? But right now, everything's been at ease with the U.S. at this moment, but we still got to remain vigilant. It looks like Juneteenth, I call it the Peasants' Day holiday. I do call it that. And the whole thing is a facade on what occurred. So they're going to try to overpower Independence Day. They got another thing coming. Your cultural revolution, color revolution is done, as far as I'm concerned. You can escalate all you want. Get all the dummies, your disciples that you want to use as yesterday's garbage. Animal Farm 101. I'm just browsing through here. I'm on Night Cafe AI. I'm just goofing around. Don't take it too seriously, but it's has its good and bad. Don't say I'm no AI fanatic, but I do have fun using this. But it's not my lifeblood. It's just another tool. Not to control my destiny, you can say. It's hitting some of the areas about how warhawks taking control of the Trump administration. That's in the New American. Yeah, John Birch Society has good content. You don't have to agree with them completely, but it's good to know. Because I do my homework and verify things as well. And they're on target on these matters. So I'm just browsing around, of course, in the cradle. No diplomacy until Israel stops war, faces consequences for crimes. That's what the Iranian foreign minister has to say. Anywhere.com, CIA chief echoes Mossad finding on Iran nuclear program. That's been going on and on and on. And like I said before, I'm not lovey-dovey with their government either. A lot of people know that they have Christianity is getting big there. Hopefully it won't be that, it has to be organic, not infiltrated or any means. And of course, LifeSite News is cool too. FBI urged to release withheld records on Hunter Biden laptop, other Twitter files. That's good. LifeSite.news has been shadow banned a lot of those big social media sites, so please check it out. Just News. Van says National Guard troops are still necessary in Los Angeles. They're still rioting over there. Woodrow Wilson did support on federalizing the National Guard too. So good little history lesson. I remember I found one of my archives, on videos I used to download. One of them was by the Geopolitical Report, which is defunct News Bud, which Bell Edmonds created. Her, she's back on track. Hopefully things are good with her. But Kurt Nemo did a segment. You can find me at archive.org. Loki Luck number 3 all together on archive.org, and I do have the video up. Pretty interesting stuff. Good to know all sides the best you can, the good and bad of history. So I'm here at the censor.news. Judge orders any Israel activist, Mohammad Kahali, be released from ICE custody. There's some controversies with that. You can be a quack for all I know. And of course, we got right here, information liberation. Opponents of Israel are Russian and Iranian bots. ADL funded group. Yeah, the Information League. We didn't have the courage to debate with the late great Aaron Zellman for Jews for the preservation of firearms ownership on militias, gun control, and Judaism. Now I had stickers like that. I ordered like a whole bunch of them in 2004, and I got 2 left. I got 200-300 of them. I'm not so sure, but I passed them around like hotcakes, man. I still got good friends that still will have them unsticked, which is cool. But hey, I'm pro free speech, so I think it's great. And let me see here. An American Dream, Russia and China are 100% in Iran's corner, and that has very serious implications. Even though their economies are being a lot of issues with their economies and more uprises in the CCP itself, because Xi Jinping going to slowly take them out. And of course, the U.S. should not become a pawn in Israel's new war. That's from Free West Media. That's a good one there. I always appreciate certain articles and so forth. And I agree. It's like, hey, if Netanyahu, he can go out to Greece, the world should revolve around him. Give him the big middle finger. Can't stand this clown. He's like one of them. But, before I hit the articles, I just seen this one here called What's Up With That? And earthquake near Iran nuclear site, natural event or hidden test. I know there's weapons you could do earthquakes. But this is what it says here by Anthony Watts. An earthquake near Fordo nuclear enrichment facility in Qom, hopefully I pronounced that right, or Qom province, on June 20th, 2025 has created a lot of speculation and worry. The earthquake in question, which occurred near Iran's Fordo nuclear facility, was reported with varying magnitudes 5.1 to 5.5 across news sources. Based on available information from news reports, seismic data, and expert analysis, here's an assessment of the likelihood that this event was related to nuclear weapons testing or a nuclear accident. Analysis of likelihood, nuclear weapons test, or nuclear accident. This is what it says here. Number 1, nuclear weapons test. The likelihood of the earthquake being caused by nuclear weapons test is very low based on available evidence. Here's why. Seismic characteristics. Nuclear test typically produces seismic signatures distinct from natural earthquakes with a sharp onset and a lower depth, often less than 1 to 2 kilometers for tests. The reported earthquake has depth of 10 kilometers, which is too deep for typical nuclear test. Experts on X have noted that a 10-kilometer depth is inconsistent with nuclear test signatures. Magnitude, a 5.1 to 5.5 magnitude, is within range of a small nuclear test, e.g. North Korea's 2006 test was 4.3, but natural earthquakes of this size are common in Iran. A seismically active region. A similar event in October 2024 was investigated and confirmed as a natural earthquake, not a test. Lack of official evidence. No credible reports from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, U.S. Geological Survey, or other monitoring agencies suggest a nuclear test. Iranian media acknowledged that the quake, but didn't mention test, an unverified claim. It's on, e.g. on Telegram or X, like substantiation. Geographical context: Iran's nuclear program is under intense scrutiny, and a test would likely trigger a detectable radiation or international condemnation. U.S. intelligence assesses Iran hasn't decided to build a bomb, though it has an enriched uranium close to weapons grade. A test now would be a major escalation inconsistent with Iran's cautious approach. Speculation on X. Some ex-post speculate about a test citing the quake's proximity to Semnan, home-to-missile facilities, or Fordow. However, these claims are inconclusive, often based on unverified sources or misinterpretations of seismic data. 2. Nuclear accident. The likelihood of a nuclear accident causing the earthquake is extremely low. Here's the reasoning. Nature of accident. Nature of accidents. Nuclear accidents, e.g. reactor meltdowns or explosions, don't typically generate seismic events of this magnitude. They might cause localized damage or radiation leaks, but no report indicated such an incident. Fordow's design. The Fordow facility is an underground uranium enrichment site, not a reactor or weapons assembly plant. Is hardened against attacks and buried deep in a mountain, reduce the chance of an accident causing a 5.1 to 5.5 quake. No radiation reports. An accident would likely release detectable radiation, which would be picked up by global monitoring networks. No such reports exist from the IAEA or other sources. Context of Israeli strikes. The quake occurred amid Israeli airstrikes on Iranian military and nuclear sites, raising fears of damage to Fordow. However, the IAEA reports no significant damage to Fordow from recent strikes, and the quake's timing appears coincidental. 3. Natural earthquake. The most likely explanation is a natural earthquake. Iran is on several tectonic fault lines, and earthquakes of this magnitude are frequent. The USGS and Iranian authorities reported the event as a natural quake with no evidence suggesting otherwise. 4. Other considerations. Unverified claims. A Telegram post by an Iranian blogger and some ex-users suggested Islamic Revolutionary Guard groups testing caused the quake. These claims are unverified and lacking support of evidence from credible sources. Regional tensions. The quake's proximity to Fordow and the timing of Israeli strikes fueled speculation. However, similar rumors about a quake in October 24 were debunked, suggesting a pattern of overinterpretation. Seismic monitoring. The global seismic networks are designed to detect nuclear tests, and no alerts have been raised. The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, or CTBTO, would likely flag suspicious activity, but no such reports exist. Conclusion: nuclear weapons test, less than 5% likelihood. The depth, regional seismicity, lack of radiation, and absence of official confirmation make a test highly improbable. Speculation on X and Telegram is not credible without corroboration. Nuclear accident, less than 1% likelihood. No evidence supports an accident, and Fordow's design and function makes this scenario implausible. Natural earthquake, greater than 95% likelihood. The seismic characteristics in Iran's tectonic setting strongly favored a natural event. And I'll be very frank, right now, if you see what's going on around the world with the seismic tremors and quakes and volcanic eruptions around the world, Iran and areas of Turkey, there's just Armenia, that's just part of that whole ripple effect. So I'm not going to be wigging out over these accusations. However, like I say, you have to really back up your facts if you believe it's other than a natural earthquake. So it's just pretty cool. So I'll definitely leave it in the footnotes so you folks can read it for yourselves. Observe responsibly as always. But okay, so the first article I'm going to be reading here came out on Zero Hedge, was originally from Andrew Coribico from Substack. And it says here, NATO's procurement corruption scandal might delay its rapid militarization plan. Member states might eschew, right? The NATO support and procurement agencies' services, thus delaying their military purchases, which could delay the bloc's rapid militarization plans if enough of them do this as to avoid having to pay more if they are unlucky enough to be serviced by corrupt employees. NATO's next summit will be held from June 24th, 25th of June at The Hague, that's in the Netherlands, and almost certainly see the bloc expanded upon its pre-existing rapid militarization plan. Trump is demanding that all members spend 5% of the GDP on defense as soon as possible, which Politico recently reminded everyone their article about this is divided between 3.5% on hard military spending and 1.5% on defense-related issues like cybersecurity. Here are the three backgrounds briefing on NATO's rapid militarization plans to bring readers up to speed. 19 July 2024, the EU's planned transformation into a military union is a federalist power play. 24th October 2024, NATO's military Schengen, and the 7th of March 2025, the Rearm Europe plan will probably fall far short of the bloc's lofty expectations. In short, the EU wants to exploit false fears of a future Russian invasion to further centralize the bloc under that pretext, with the military Schengen for facilitating the free flow of troops and equipment between member states, and a €800 billion Rearm Europe plan is being its tangible manifestations. The first will create the desired union, while the second will then result in there being an urgent need for some mechanism to organize a division of defense investments between all members. It's here where the NATO Support and Procurement Agency is expected to play a major role, owing the lack of any alternatives and the difficulty in getting members to agree on creating the EU-wide one due to some state sovereignty concerns. Per the NSPA's website, its objective to obtain the best service of equipment at the best price for the customer by consolidating requirements from multiple nations in a cost-efficient way through its turnkey multinational acquisition framework. The problem, though, is that the NSPA has been embroiled in a procurement of scandal over the past. To their credit, Deutsche Welle published a fair and detailed report about what happened, which can be summarized as employees passing along information to defense contractors in exchange for funds were partly laundered to them through consultancy companies. The NSPA reportedly initiated the investigation itself, but that might not be sufficient for controlling the damage from the scandal. While it'll continue functioning, some member states might not now be hesitant to rely more on its services than is absolutely necessary to avoid having to pay more or whatever it is that they're looking to buy if more corrupt employees unlikely happen to service their request. Of course, the NSPA's initiative to investigate itself, which lead to 3 arrests thus far, as spread to several countries, including the U.S., might reassure some states. Few will likely take any more chances than they have to. Enough NATO members practice this approach in understandable pursuit of their financial self-interest, especially if segments of the public pressure them to do so in order not to risk wasting taxpayers' hard-earned funds. Then this could collectively complicate NATO's rapid militarization plans. It remains to be seen what effect it will ultimately have, but the NSPA's procurement corruption scandal couldn't have come at a worse time. It's important not to let the elite sweep it under the rug for convenience. You definitely should check out this article here, right? From Deutsche Wells. And yeah, this came out, like a month ago. Yep, the corruption reminder. The corruption pro reminder of defense booms risk. So definitely check that out. That came out May 19th. Oh man, follow the money, right? Good grief. That's why I don't really blame Donald Trump for trying to get out of this organization, because originally it's supposed to be done after, World War II, and now they just take things. You got a great amount of just take things for granted. Want to control the world. Too many control freaks out there. They're the ones that can't even wipe their own butts when they try to tell you how to think and live, right? What should we do? Pretty disturbing indeed. But it'll be very interesting how far this baby goes. So check it out. Check out that article that's in the link here from Zero Hedge, and take it from there. All right. Okay, cool. So we're gonna do one more here. This one here is a while back. No, not a while back. Came out yesterday. It's pretty philosophical to be exact. And it says here, why we should hate speech laws. This is by David Gordon. And from Harvard Press. The Harm in Hate Speech by Jeremy Wardren. So here, the skip back will be a little bit like 10 minutes, I would say, a little over 10 minutes, maybe 11 at the time. In many countries, though not in most part of the United States, laws prohibit hate speech. Those who, in Jeremy Wardren's opinion, uncritically elevate the benefits of free speech over competing values oppose hate speech laws, but Waldron thinks that a strong case can be made in their favor. Waldron thinks that there are very few First Amendment absolutists who oppose all regulation of speech, but he thinks that many other First Amendment scholars are unduly critical of hate speech regulations. Waldron is a well-known legal and political philosopher, but the arguments that he advances in defense of hate speech laws do not seem to be very substantial to me. Hate speech, Waldron tells us, consists of publications which express profound disrespect, hatred, and vilification for the members of minority groups. Speech, should be noted, is used here in an extended sense and is more lasting written material, movies, posters, etc., that principally concerned Waldron rather than speeches, verbal threats, or imprecations, though the latter are not included. Many countries ban such speech. One way to respond to this would be assess hate speech laws from the Rothbardian position that I think is correct. This would make a for a short review for Rothbard, free speech questions reduces the issue of property rights. If, for example, someone writes Muslims get out on a wall, a Rothbardarian would ask, whose wall is it? If the author of the message wrote it on his own wall, he acted within his right. Lacking permission, he wrote on someone else's wall, he violated owner's property rights, which is true. People have no general right to restrain against insults. Furthermore, you do not own your reputation, since it consists of the idea of other people have of you, and you cannot own other people's thoughts. For that reason, laws against libel and slander for the Rothbardarian are ruled out. Waldron asks, if a law forbids libel of a person, why not law against groups libel as well? A more un-Rothbardian, argument could hardly be imagined. I think it would be a mistake to leave matters there. We can also ask how good Waldron's arguments are if judged on their own merits rather than elevated from an external perspective. If we ask this question, we must first deal with the difficulty. Waldron's exact position is rather elusive. For one thing, it is not altogether accurate to say that he defends hate speech laws, though this is certainly the general tenor of his book. He sometimes confines himself to saying that there are considerations in favor of these laws. These would need to be weighed against reasons for not restricting speech. For example, he says, "My purpose in putting all this in front of you is not to persuade you of the wisdom and legitimacy of hate speech laws. The point is to consider whether American free speech jurisprudence has really come to terms with the best that has been said for hate speech regulations. But I don't think it admits much doubt that for Waldron, the arguments in favor of these laws are decisive. Why then should we restrict hate speech? The primary consideration is that it assaults human dignity in what Waldron, following John Rawls, calling a well-ordered society, there is an assurance to all citizens that they can count on being treated justly, but hate speech disrupts this assurance. However, when a society is defaced with an anti-Semitic signage, burning crosses, and defamatory racial leaflets, the sort of assurance evaporates. A vigilant police force and a justice department may still keep people from being attacked or excluded, but they no longer have the benefit of a general and diffuse assurance to this effect of being treated justly, provided and enjoyed as a public good furnished to all by each. This goes all together too fast if you encounter a pamphlet or a sign hostile to your minority group. Why would you conclude anything more than that someone wishes you and those like you ill? Wouldn't the hostile view be merely one opinion among the large numbers of others? Why would it suffice to weaken your sense of assurance that you were an equal member of society? Waldron, fully aware of this objection, responds that it neglects the effects of cognition. And even though the effect of an individual hate message may be small, the message signals to other haters that they do not hate alone. The accumulation of many such messages may indeed serve to undermine the assurance of the harassed minority. In a way, we're talking about environmental good, the atmosphere of a well-ordered society, as well as the ways in which certain ecology of respect, dignity, and assurance is maintained, and in the ways in which it can be polluted and, to vary the metaphor, undermined. Waldron elucidates the peril that he draws between hate messages and environmental pollution in this way. We see the tiny impact of millions of actions, each apparently inconsiderable in itself, can produce a large-scale toxic effect that, even at the mass level, operates insidiously as a sort of slow-acting poison, and that regulations have to be aimed at an individual action with that scale and that pace of causation in mind. An immense amount of progress has been made made in consequentialist moral philosophy by taking causation of this kind on this scale and at this pace properly into account. But why does contagion operate only with bad effects? Will not the cumulative effects of a series of individual encounters in which members of minority groups are treated with equal respect generate a positive atmosphere of assurance in precisely the same way that Waldron postulates for the amassing of hate messages? Waldron assumes without an argument a quasi-Grisham's law of public opinion, which had bad opinion drives out good. If Waldron has not succeeded in making a case for hate speech regulation, Is there anything to be said against such laws, aside, of course, from the libertarian considerations that we have for this review put aside? One point seems to me of fundamental importance. Waldron presents these laws as if they limited only extreme expression of hate, e.g. suggestions that people in certain groups are subhuman or need to be forcibly expelled from society, if not done away with altogether, and that only a few crazies would be penalized by these laws. He highly notes that we are not obliged to like everyone or to be deemed everyone equally morally worthy. But this requirement that we treat everyone with dignity means that individuals are required to accord equal respect to all their fellow citizens. Does it mean that they are not permitted to esteem some and despise others? The proposition seems counterintuitive. Much of our moral and public life involves differentiation of respect. I would add that even if Waldron is right about the limited range of these laws, the crazy should have the right to express their views. Hate speech laws, Waldron says, do not ignore our right to prefer some people to others. She says here, we further remain free to criticize minority groups as long as we do not stray into forbidden territory of outright hatred and denigration. Waldron claims that most such hate speech laws bend over backwards to ensure that there is a lawful way of expressing something like a propositional content of views and become objectionable when expressed as vituperation. Interesting words here, right? Hey, you gotta learn, folks. They try to define a legitimate mode of roughly equivalent expression. Some laws of this type also try affirmatively to define a sort of safe haven for how to moderate expression of the view whose hateful or hate-inciting expression is prohibited. This is an outright falsehood, and it is well known that people have been sentenced to long prison terms for politically incorrect remarks. For Waldron, the state ought to watch vigilantly over us, ever alert that some miscreant may cross the boundary set, of course, by the state itself of acceptable dissent from orthodoxy of multicultural society. I cannot think that such a tutelary power has a place in a free society. And I have to agree. Hey, if someone wants to talk smack about one particular group, mock them. Counter. Mock them. That's how I do it. And the truth of the matter is, in these United States, generally speaking, we're all minorities, right? They say we're Anglo. Prove to me I have British blood. I don't have any British descent in me. I'm not knocking the Brits either, okay? It's just some of those things, when you got the state believe they know best and it turns to crap. They try to do that with these BDS laws and public nuisance laws and anti-Semitism protection laws like they have in Florida and other places. It's all null and void, folks. How does it succeed your natural rights? It doesn't. So people can criticize whatever they want, what kind of life they have, right? Something to think about. And we always got to beware, too, of the whole divide and rule. They want to blame one group, and millions get slaughtered from it, and a great amount. It happens with Death by Government. Okay, that's a good book to read, Death by Government by R.J. Rummel. And another video to check out. I know I probably said it multiple times in the past. Innocent Betrayed, JPFO website. You might have to order. If not, I think archive.org has a copy of that. You can see it for yourself. And just type in Innocent Betrayed. You'll be surprised and how they do these witch hunting. But the truth of the matter is, hey, we got a natural right to criticize whoever we want, but you better expect stuff in return. So, in my view, how I see it, mock these people, but don't make it into the state government says you can't make these statements, you're going to go to jail, because if you do it to them, you can be next. So always let that sink in. Thomas Paine warns about this, including defending liberty for our enemies. If we don't, there's a president. We create a president, we could be next. I'm paraphrasing. So observe responsibly, pay attention, always be vigilant. And you know what? That'll be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, and all that good stuff, wherever you do, please use the Decorum. Hit me via email to ll3-podcast@proton.me. I'll leave the footnotes on this episode. Podbean right now. And if you want to donate, go to PayPal or me or cash.app/look3. Follow me at Steemit, Crypto Love at LL3-Podcast. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of yourselves. I'm being tongue-tied here. That time of the day, right? Take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.